Is 11 alive? The Stranger Things finale gives the viewer two endings and lets you decide which one you can live with. On one side, the ending of 11 being dead feels like the most realistic. 11 stays behind at the gateway while everything collapses, and it plays like a final sacrifice. Also, Mike's story at the end about her surviving starts to sound less like evidence and more like grief. It's like he's turning the ending into a campaign he can win because the real ending hurts too much. Now, this does seem more like Mike's just trying to cope with the loss and look for a way out, but the show also frames Mike's version in a way that makes you pause. It's not told like a random fantasy. It's told like an intentional alternate path. It's actually as if the writers are leaving the door open purposefully. They even go as far as to show us how 11 would have actually escaped and shows Kali helping with the illusion. Let's talk about the angle of her actually being alive then. How did she escape that truck? She was fully surrounded, and unless Kali made her invisible, then she would have been spotted by the guards. Also, Kali did look as if she got shot, but did she really though? Is Kali alive? Kali's status is tied to 11's, because Kali is the one character whose power can literally rewrite what you think you saw. The obvious read is that she dies. She gets shot in the body, she's fading, and the scene plays like the cost of the mission. She reassures 11 and says her story was supposed to end here anyway. There's no last-second rescue, and the show really does make it seem like she dies here. But the Kali could be alive theory exists for one reason. If the finale wants Mike's version of events to be more than pure coping, Kali surviving just a little longer changes everything. She wouldn't need to escape and live happily ever after. She'd only need enough time to throw one final illusion. She would need to survive long enough to create a decoy that lets 11 vanish. Now, with this in mind, she definitely would need to be alive for long, because there was a lot of time between her death and the team escaping the Upside Down. Could she have bled out by then? Probably. But let's talk about the helicopter and chaos theory. If there's any moment where people aren't tracking bodies properly, it's during a military scramble. Noise, movement, lights, orders being shouted. If Kali's still conscious longer than the scene suggests, she could pull perception off the real target. Also, what if she created an illusion that she was actually shot? We don't actually see her being shot by the gun, because the helicopter blows up just in time. The most likely read is that she does die here, but what if she created an illusion of being shot and stayed alive just long enough to save Elle? Where's the Demogorgons? The finale feeling light on Demogorgons is weird, because the whole franchise started with one creature dragging people into the dark, but the ending shifts the logic of the fight. It's more so defeating Vecna and the Mind Flayer. If everything's connected through the hive, then Demogorgons stop being independent threats and start being extensions. They fight the battles for Vecna and are extra tools to his powers. So where'd they go in the finale? It's like they just vanished all of a sudden. Either they were pulled back to defend the core, or they were wiped out as the Upside Down started collapsing. And there's also a real storytelling reason. If the finale already has the big emotional sacrifice, the military pressure, the is she alive twist, and the final boss reveal, then throwing in a Demogorgon battle becomes noise. It seems like the show's trying to say that Demogorgons wouldn't really be significant in the final episode, but this raises the question, where did they actually go? The Mind Flayer's reveal. The Mind Flayer reveal should have been the most terrifying thing in the finale, because it's the original nightmare. The shadow over everything. The thing that doesn't need a face, because the idea of it is scarier than any creature design. Now, it definitely looked scary, but it went down pretty fast. That's why people feel split. The reveal says this is the big bad monster who's ruled Hawkins since the start, but the pacing of the fight points towards a wrap-it-up vibe. The best way to explain it is the finale turns the Mind Flayer into a structural weakness. If it's linked to Vecna through the hive mind, then hitting the connection is like pulling a pin. Once the core gets damaged, everything collapses in a chain reaction. The problem is, the Mind Flayer works best when it's untouchable. The moment it becomes something the characters can fight directly, it risks feeling smaller. Still scary, still iconic, but not unknowable anymore. I guess Will getting into Vecna's mind and Elle fighting him head-on made him seem not too big bad after all. The Mind Flayer is probably most powerful when it's controlling from a place that no one can see or visit, but they did come right to its home turf. Something to consider is that the Mind Flayer likes it cold, right? So why's his home turf a desert? So yeah, it's the big bad, but the finale chooses closure over terror. That's why it feels quick. Will's powers. Will's ending raises a question that should be impossible to ignore. If he's connected to the hive mind and the hive mind collapses, shouldn't that collapse him too? Unless his connection isn't a life support cable, but more so a scar. Will's link has always felt like residue. It was like something was inside him, something touched him, branded him, then left a stain behind. That stain can still react. It can still sense. It can still flare up when something's wrong. But it doesn't mean Will's survival depends on the mind flayer staying alive. That also helps explain the powers conversation. Will might not be a new psychic. He might be sensitive to the echo. Like his nervous system learned the frequency and never fully forgot it. So when the source dies, he doesn't die. What dies is the signal. And if Will still feels something after, that's the scary part. Because it suggests the story didn't just change him emotionally, it changed him physically. Where's Dr. Kay? Dr. Kay feels like a loose end because the show spends so much time telling you the government will always chase power like 11. But then the epilogue hits, and the chase is basically gone. Where did she and the military go? I guess they just stopped chasing the kids. Now, if the Upside Down is destroyed and the bridge is severed, the program does essentially lose its purpose overnight. No portal means there's no weapon. No weapon means there's no funding. Now, no funding means people get reassigned, buried and silenced, and the cover-up angle matters more than revenge. A government operation tied to Hawkins can't become public, so the cleanest outcome is quiet. You don't need Dr. K to get redeemed, you just need Dr. K to get boxed away. Also, if 11's gone, the chase ends because the prize is gone. If 11 survived but vanished, the chase ends because there's no proof, no trail, and no doorway left to justify burning money and manpower. So the military doesn't stop because they got nice. They stop because they lost the only door that made them dangerous. What happened to Vickie? Vickie disappearing in the epilogue feels odd because the finale goes out of its way to show where almost everyone ends up. We get the 18-month jump, we see the new routines, the new jobs, and everyone's life post-Vecna. But we don't see what happened to Vickie. But there's a small line that pretty much answers it without showing her. When Robin's on the roof with Steve, Nancy, and Jonathan, Steve rises a toast about nothing keeping them apart. Robin immediately adds, including overbearing significant others. That doesn't sound random. That sounds like Robin's still dating someone, and the one person the show set up for that role is Vickie. Plus, Vickie was always written as a little intense in a caring way, so overbearing fits her vibe. Vickie and Max get intercepted when the team comes back, and after that, the show skips forward. If the government loses access to the Upside Down and loses the only person they truly wanted, then keeping random witnesses locked up becomes more risk than reward. Holding them, charging them, or dragging them into court risks exposing everything. That's probably why they released everyone. So Vickie probably didn't die. She just got processed, questioned, and quietly released. Then she went back to normal life, and is probably dating Robin. Spinoff series? That final basement D&D moment feels like the show leaving a door unlocked. It's not saying the Upside Down is back. It's saying the pattern continues. One generation puts the binders away, another generation picks them up. Hawkins will always have kids who want adventure, and that hunger for mystery is the real engine of this world. Then you add Mike's ending, where storytelling becomes his future, and it gets even more meta. Stranger Things starts as a game, becomes reality, then ends as a game again. Like the story is folding back in on itself. So, is it a setup for a spin-off? It can be, because you don't need 11 to continue the universe. You just need a new mystery, a new rumor, a new weird signal that somebody notices first. If they ever return to this world, that basement table is the perfect launch point, not with a gate ripping open, with a kid rolling dice and saying, "One more game." Now, let's just hope Delightful Derek isn't the new Will. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one.